way better price.
Okay, I think all of us are very happy to be on the cusp of heading into spring, and certainly we are seeing now those fluctuations in weather patterns, cold today, warm the next day, which can bring all types of bizarre weather our way. So it's a great time for us to be talking once again to Bryan Beasley. He is with the Beasley Agency Farmers Insurance, and his topic today is when those storms might come. If you have some damage to your house, you don't want to have to rebuild and not have enough insurance. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
And that happens to people.
It happened during the tornadoes that hit East Brainerd a few years ago. You know, people were underinsured on their home, and so when you go to rebuild, you know, if you've the example I gave you is if you bought a home 10 years ago and you paid $250,000 for it. Well, today that value is going to be a whole different number. So you want to make sure that value is equivalent to what you would rebuild it today. So a 2,000 square foot home, 250,000 10 years ago is going to be 400,000 a day.
Okay.
So if you're only insured for 250,000, you're only going to be able to build a 1,200 square foot home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's what's interesting when I was talking to you a little bit, because the last time you were here, you had talked about this ability to, for very little money, really increase the amount of protection you had for liability insurance.
Liability insurance, that's right.
The reason I'm bringing that part up is that in talking to you, you begin to realize that there are all different layers of insurance, and most of us don't realize it.
That's right. That's right. The two biggest ones are your liability insurance and your reconstruction cost on your home. But the reconstruction cost is the biggest factor in your rating, what you're going to pay for your insurance.
So if let's say you buy a home, let's say you're building a home.
Yeah.
Whichever it is, and you have to have insurance on that home. Most people have that as part of their mortgage payment.
You have insurance even before as you're building, right? You want to insure it as you're building, yeah.
Okay, so you insure it then at the time, let's say it's $400,000 house.
Yep.
That's what you think you're insuring it for, but should you at that moment really be insuring it for, say, $650,000?
No, you want to insure it at minimum. If you're taking out a mortgage, you want to cover the mortgage, right? Mm-hmm. But you also want to make sure you're insured up to the point, like that's where some people will make the mistake, because you want to make sure that if a storm did blow through and took your whole home out down to the concrete slab,
right?
Would you be able to rebuild it the same amount the next day? And the thing that we saw, the tornadoes that came through Chattanooga, there were tornadoes in Nashville, there was a hurricane that hit the coast. There were multiple storms that happened all at the same time.
So supplies were down.
And contractors. Mm-hmm. So the expense went up. The example, I was talking to somebody yesterday, 2x4s, right? I like to build stuff with wood. Mm-hmm. And so a 2x4 3 years ago was less than $4. Now it's anywhere from $6 to $8. Mm-hmm. But $8 for a while after the storms.
Right, so you're doubling your money.
Yeah, that's just the framing of your house is,
okay,
you know, you're going to pay a lot more for that.
So I can be a literal person, so walk me through this. So again, let's go with the idea that my husband and I buy a house and we pay $300,000 for this house.
Yes.
And then we go ahead and we have insurance on it. We're not building, we're buying, okay? We're buying an existing house. We have it insured. Should we have it insured from day one for the $300,000?
Yes.
And so when do we decide to up it to make sure we're protected?
It's one of those things that you should have a conversation with your insurance agent pretty much every year.
Okay.
And some of like in farmers, there's a cost you can choose as an endorsement for it to automatically adjust to the market.
Oh.
So that's the other thing that happens.
Is that a good thing though, or is that a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing, because then you're not worried about it. But
okay.
you know, at your renewal every year,
theoretically,
do you ever look at your renewal? Mm-mm. Does your husband look at it?
You want to hit my hand?
No.
Okay.
No, but is that on you or is it on your agent?
Well, okay.
Or is it a combination of both, right?
It could be a combination of both, but you're touching on an old school thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember growing up, my parents knew our insurance agent quite well.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to know rates are going up on everything. We've got renewals that are coming in at 45%. I don't want you to pull up that letter that you get in the mail and not look at it the day before it renews and go, what on earth?
Right.
I'm going to pay $2,000 more this year for my home.
You know what? Rates are going up.
They're going up.
Why is that?
Because the rebuild value is more expensive. because the cost to rebuild is more expensive, because there's all kinds of factors that lead into that. And so everybody's raising rates across the board on homes and on autos. On the autos, it's all the things that the pandemic, we stopped driving for a while, right? But then once we were done with the pandemic, everybody got out and started driving again. But at the same time, during the pandemic, there was a work shortage across the globe. So semiconductors and microchips and all that stuff were slowed down. But there were also not extra parts being built. So your car, if it's, let's say it's a Toyota Highlander, if you have an accident, which, you know, my car's sitting in the parking lot with a dent from December from hitting a deer, I'm booked for the middle of March. That's as early as I could get in. So you're talking multiple months later, just simply because of parts. They can't get the parts. They order the parts, there's a delay on all the parts. It's not that the body shops, they're backed up a little bit, but it's not just that, it's trying to get the parts. So on the homes, roofs are more expensive, the framing of the house is more expensive. Concrete is, the numbers are crazy. What it costs to do just all the basic things to get it there.
Okay, so I want to be careful how I say this. A lot of folks have been in a workplace situation where the economy was bad and they said we can't give raises, or you're having to cut money back. You remember those furlough years ago? And then the joke around the business will be, yeah, we'll never get that money back. Like once you're taking it back, you don't get it back.
Right.
In this case with insurance, if they're raising the rate, will it ever go lower again? Do you think that
No.
that competition will lower it back?
No, I'd love to see where there's an adjustment. You know, if you don't have claims for 10 years or whatever, it'd be nice if you get a 1% back or some amount back.
Oh yeah.
That does happen. It does happen, but it's less likely that you're going to see a reduction in rates.
Okay, let's talk about that. And I know you don't set the policies, you just find a good one for your clients, right?
Yeah.
But you can't help it. Sometimes if you have a natural disaster or a break-in at your house or whatever, are you penalized for filing a claim?
You have to be careful. You know, our advice is always, before you file the claim, get an estimate. Have a contractor come in and take a look at it. If your deductible's $1,500 or $5,000, I had an insured up in Decatur, the tornadoes blew through there. He had a $5,000 deductible. He called me, he had roof damage, he had a garage damage. He showed me, sent me pictures, and basically the conversation ended with, he said, you know, I'll just fix it myself. Because he would have had to been, you know, $6,000, $7,000 in to make it worthwhile. So in the event where you do file a claim, yes, you're gonna pay more rate next year when you renew. Even if it's a natural disaster, you're more at risk where you are, right? If you've been in a path of a storm, you're going to be in a path of a storm again.
Is it customary across the board for, we had some downed trees when those tornadoes came through. That took out a fence, but the fence was not insured. The
fence should be, usually it's insured as actual cost value.
Really?
Instead of replacement cost value. So if you've had your fence for a long time, there's no it's depreciated down. There's no value left.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But it's a wrong assumption then to say that a tree has to fall on your house to do it. If you just put in a brand new fence, they're going to replace that. Most people.
Or at a depreciated. If it's brand new, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, there's a lot that goes into it. One of the things I was telling Bryan, though, that is really interesting to me is that the conversation is actually engaging, talking about insurance.
I always say insurance is a really interesting subject.
But it is when it's your money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
If you're not covered correctly.
Right.
And that's important, right? And that's not, I don't choose your coverage. We have a conversation. And based on what you tell me, we cover it at that. Okay,
let's talk about that conversation then, because the world has changed because of COVID. Are most of your conversations done in person in the office, or do you do a lot over the phone, or what do you do?
I'll give you an example. My son plays lacrosse for Saudi Daisy, state champions last year, just so
Congratulations.
You know, right? Thank
just
you.
saying.
Yeah. One of 3 in Chattanooga. Of the 4 districts, there were 3 Chattanooga teams that won their districts state championships. I like to throw that in. Thank you for letting me. But we were on our way to Knoxville yesterday for a game at Webb, and which got rained out, unfortunately. But on the way up, and we had another player in the back with us that we were giving a ride, I had an hour-long conversation with an engineer. Engineers are real detail-oriented, so they want to know all the pieces. And so he and I have had multiple conversations to go through every little nook and cranny of what his existing policy looks like.
So the car was your office?
Yeah, for an hour. And those
Okay.
kids were like, oh, come on. One more story, really? You got to tell one more, you know?
But the man was on the edge of his seat because it was his money you were saving.
He asked really good, detailed questions. And that's, you know, I mean, not everybody picks through their policy that way. But, you know, that's what we should do, is help you understand what you have so that
Right.
when you need it, you've got it. Well, let me give you an example of one of the things he was talking about. The quote that I gave him, there's if your home is blown away, there's a part in your policy, and it's usually 20 or 40% of the rebuild value. And it's and there's an amount of time that you're given. Those two pieces that are line items in your policy are if you have to move out of your house at 3 a.m. because the tornado came and blew everything away, then there's money in there for you to go to Walmart and get toothpaste and toiletries and underwear and t-shirts and clothes to get you through, to move you into a hotel, to pay for your meals because you don't have a kitchen for
Right.
the next several months.
Right.
That's an additional amount on top of your rebuild value for your home.
Okay.
That's all cooked in your policy. And that during the tornadoes that came through, there were, you know, my wife and I went out to Cherry Hill, I think it was
Holly Hills.
Holly Hills. And I cried when we
Yeah.
pulled in. We had a friend who had a home that, you know, we were a little bit late in the week, but she said, we're going to go help. And it's devastating,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I told her, if you have friends that just need advice, just have them call me. Because people don't understand what they've got.
Well, let me show people how they can call you.
Sure.
Because you are going to have your own good questions to ask of Bryan. So 428-9222 is the phone number to call him. I know the address is there in Dayton. Clearly, he's got these Saudi connections. If you're in Cleveland, if you're in Chickamauga, he would be happy to help you. At thebeasleyagency.com, you can find more as well. And go Saudi Daisy Lacrosse.
Yes, yes.
Crystal is testing its new breakfast on real morning haters, like people who are late for work.
I'm running late. This sunrise is right on time.
Get the Crystal